I'm Brandon Martini, a commercial pilot and flight instructor.
And I'm Carson Vasquez. I'm a private pilot.
And you're listening to the Aviation Mentors Podcast, sponsored by Stratus Financial.
So buckle up, because the Aviation Mentors are taking off.
Today, we have an awesome guest to introduce. His name is Richard Fornaca of Kavu Aero Service. Rich and I have been good friends for a long time now. I don't know how long it's been, but it's got to be, 7 or 8 years at least. I actually met Richard when I was going to flight school, and he was actually the mechanic for the flight school I was going to at the time. And then he also helped me buy my first airplane and kind of get into this industry. So I look up to Rich a lot. When I first met him, I actually asked him to do not first met him, but one of my first interactions with him as a mechanic, besides at the flight school, I asked him to do the pre-buy inspection on an airplane I wanted to buy, my first airplane. And after he was done doing it, I asked him if he would put his wife and his newborn son in the airplane, and he said yes. So the fact that he told me that gave me all the confidence I needed from day one to trust him. And I've trusted him forever since then. And like I said, we do family birthdays and things all together now, and it's really a blast that he would bless us with coming on the podcast today, because I know how busy he is. So. Richard, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on, Rich. And I've also had the pleasure of knowing Rich, I think 2 years now, and getting to work with him sometimes at Kavu, and just getting to help out with the small things. So, Rich, I've seen your shop plenty of times and see how many planes are usually in there. And I want to know what the difference is between then and now. How did you get started?
Well, I kind of actually fell into being A&amp mechanic. I was going to school at community college for my commercial flight degree. And at the time I was 25 years old. So it was going to be a little late start for me to become a, commercial pilot, airline pilot. And I've always been good at working with my hands. They had an A&amp program next door. I still had some GI Bill money to use. So I said, what the heck, let's try this. And I haven't looked back since.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a good start for it.
Yeah, that's way cool. I know that you went to Mount Sac. I actually went to Mount Sac for a couple classes before I personally dropped out of college. But that was a great school to go to. And I know everybody who's come out of there that's a mechanic that I know has been really a decent one. I know there's a lot of maintenance schools around the U.S. and it's hard to find really good mechanics. So luckily, Richard got to go to a really cool place. So that brings up to my question. How did you get your A&P? When did you get your IA? Because I know you have inspection authority as well. For all of you who don't know what IA is, it means that you can inspect airplanes and sign off on things like annual inspections. So what was that process like? When did you get your A&P, and how did you get your IA? Tell us a little bit about that whole process.
Well, after going to school, they prep you for your exams. You take your writtens just like a private pilot, and then you do an oral practical just like a, pilot exam, except it's with maintenance. And so the oral practical exam for like a pilot is, maybe an hour or two, maybe 3. But for the mechanic, it's like 8 to 10 hours of your day for one of the certificates. It's very involved and very thorough. And so I got that in 2009, and you're required for your IA to work at least 3 years as an A&P to even qualify to get your IA. And so I waited till my 4th year, and I did go to a school to help get the testing process done, which it's funny. It's only a 50 question test, or at least it was. Wow. But you have 3 hours because it's a very involved 50 question test. And it was one of the hardest tests I've ever taken. So I got that in, I think 2013. So almost 10 years I've been in IA now. So.
Wow. So you've been IA for 10 years and you've been working on airplanes just a little bit longer than that. So that's, it's quite a bit of work. And I always see different kinds of planes in your shop. How many different kinds of planes have you been working on?
Oh, different kinds of planes. I mean, I've probably worked on every kind of plane there is, I imagine, from warbirds to brand new Cessna, brand new Mooney, Twin Commanders, Aerostars, I mean, Pipers, Cessnas, everything. I've worked on just about anything that I can get my hands on. And I enjoy working on new aircraft that I've never worked on because I like to learn about those aircraft too. And so, yeah, I couldn't even tell you what the number is, but all types of aircraft, definitely.
That's awesome. And just absolute shot in the dark. How many airplanes do you think have your signature in those logbooks?
Oh, probably close to 1,000. I mean, just in 10 years, I could do 2 or 3 annual inspections a month. And that's just annual inspections. That's not, signing 337s or doing a major alteration or repair, 100-hour inspections, 50-hour inspections, 25-hour inspections. I mean, everything. So it would take me a while to figure out what the actual number is.
So you've worked on a ton of different airplanes. Have you ever worked on? I know you said you've worked on warbirds before. That's way cool. Have you ever worked on any helicopters or anything like that? And if you have, what kind of helicopters? And I'm sure everyone wants to know what kind of warbird you worked on, because working on a warbird has to be pretty cool, especially an airplane that's like near 100 years old.
Yeah, actually, I have worked on helicopters. I went to Robinson Maintenance training and worked on R-22, R-44s. Haven't got to the 66 yet, but there's still time. Yeah, helicopters are a little different than airplanes, a lot more moving parts and stuff, but nothing that we couldn't take on here. And as far as warbirds, I've worked on T6, T-28. I do volunteer at Planes of Fame for their air show, so I'm around the warbirds a lot too. If I had more time, I'd be in there almost every weekend if I could, but got to raise a family and make a living.
Yeah, Planes of Fame is an awesome organization, by the way. Everybody who's listening to the podcast, go check them out. They're at Chino Airport in Southern California. They're one of the largest and best private aviation museums, I would argue, in the world. They also put a world-class air show on with more warbirds than I've ever seen in my life. I believe they have one of the only flying Zeros in the world, and they have a few other aircraft that are very, very rare. They also have several P-51s that hang in their hangar every once in a while. So it's definitely a really cool place to go. And if you ever come out to LA or surrounding area or San Diego for vacation, if you live around the country, you should definitely make that a stop whenever you come out here. So that goes on to our next question, though. What is kind of the most challenging part of your job? What stresses you out more than anything? And then also, what's also the most rewarding?
That's a wonderful question. Challenging this day and age is working on older aircraft where parts and things are not made readily anymore, trying to find parts that would be okay for flight and safe and airworthy is a big challenge. I know a lot of new technologies are out with 3D printing, and I'd love to see certifications go for some of the smaller parts that are breakable and easy that would be easily repaired with 3D printing something. And as far as most rewarding, it's really good to take care of an airplane, watch it fly, watch it take families to their destinations, and always come back every year. I have a very wonderful customer base that I've kept for years. I have to thank them for sticking with me through all these crazy times, from working out of the back of my van, now having an actual facility. And I believe most of them have followed me wherever I've gone. So that's a very rewarding part of this job.
That's awesome. It's really cool that you get to see all these airplanes that you've either built or helped to maintain, and get to see all the people enjoy them, and you even yourself get to enjoy them as well, and get to see all these birds stay back up in the sky. So it sounds like there's plenty of great things for the next generation of pilots that are coming in, and next generation mechanics as well. So what does the job industry look like for these up and comers?
Oh, it's great. There's so many jobs out right now. I mean, I could use another mechanic right now, and it's tough because there's a lot of new mechanics coming out of school, and they still need to learn on the job. So they'll need somebody supervising and stuff like that. But there is no shortage of jobs for mechanics right now. I keep getting ads I mean, almost every day I get emails from companies looking to take me from my job and have me work somewhere else, because everybody needs mechanics. Every aviation, every air carrier. I mean, doesn't matter what you want to do, you can find a job as a mechanic right now.
And I know that there's an airplane pilot shortage going on right now. And we've talked about in other episodes, and we're probably going to talk about it a lot more in further ones. But I recently have read some documentation from Boeing and some others that says there's a mechanic shortage, which you just kind of alluded to. What does that mechanic shortage look like for you? I know you've got like 5 or 6 staff that work with you, and you said you need another mechanic now. Do you foresee it getting harder or cheaper or more expensive? Do you think that these new young mechanics, they're gonna have a fruitful career if they jump into this industry now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as long as they're got a good head on their shoulders, and they like to learn, and it's depending on what type of industry, as far as general aviation or air carrier or Amazon. I mean, it's depending on what you want to do with it. It could be very fruitful. I've built my business from, just myself, and now, I have, 5 employees, and we're busier than ever. I mean, I'm looking to see if there's hangars available at other airports to expand this business. So if anybody's looking for work, give me a call.
That's awesome. So we'll make sure to mention Cavu Aero Service in our comments later on once we post this. So www.cavuaeroservice.com is their website. So if you are looking for a job, make sure you do that for Rich. He definitely needs more mechanics. So if you really like working on small airplanes, living in great weather in Southern California, and you want to make a decent living, it's a great place to get started. So, and actually, I know that you were a pilot before you became a mechanic, and that was a really attractive thing when I met you for doing a pre-buy inspection, because I knew that you could go fly the airplane. I knew that you knew how to fly, and it's a really, really neat thing to be a pilot and a mechanic. I don't meet very many people who are pilots and mechanics. It seems pretty rare to me in this industry, believe it or not. So when did you become a pilot, and why did you become a pilot in the first place?
Well, actually, I got my pilot certificate in 2006. Right after getting out of the military, I started going to Mount SAC, thought I wanted to be a professional pilot. And after starting school, seeing how the industry was back then, it was going to take me 10 years to be, to make any money at it. And I was starting a small family, and, for me, getting my private was a really beneficial thing as a mechanic. Now I can, speak to my customers, and I know what they're talking about when they're saying they have a weird sound, or this is happening in flight, or if I do something and I need a flight test, I can fly the aircraft for them, and over these last, how many years, 14 years or whatever as being a pilot, I have a little over 500 hours now, which isn't very much in the long term of things, but I have flight time in a lot of aircraft, including warbirds, and just about every plane that I've worked on, I can fly, and, insured up to 300 horsepower, 6-seat, single engine right now, working on my twin engine. But yeah, I enjoy flying. I believe it makes me a better mechanic as well. And it's a very good thing to have, I'd say.
Yeah, Rich, I know that you're a great pilot, and the fact that you do some of those test flights is reassuring, because I know you've asked me to do several of those test flights with fresh engines and full rebuilds on gear and all those things, and I've never not felt safe. Every time I've gone up in an airplane that you've worked on, I always feel like I'm in great hands. It's like Allstate, you're in good hands, right? But it's all Rich, and I'm in good hands. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to also fly one of the planes that Rich worked on. I got to fly the Duchess after I got both those new engines on it with the overhaul. And, I wasn't really nervous at all. I trusted Rich. I'd been around him long enough, and just knew that, I was safe in his hands.
Yeah, there were no problems that flight, that's for sure, and it's still flying fantastic. So
Absolutely. And it's crazy to see such a fun, rewarding industry with so many opportunities. As aviation, it's just completely wide open and ready for everyone to just take a hold of it. So thank you so much for listening today, and really hope you had a great time listening, learn about being an aviation mechanic and what the road to it is, and hope everyone enjoyed listening to us and Rich talk about it.
absolutely, and thanks, Rich, again for being with us today. I know how swamped you are, and taking time away from working on airplanes is valuable to you. So we really appreciate you educating kind of future mechanics and people into aviation on what their passion is or can be in this aviation industry. So if anybody would like to reach out to either one of us, you could reach me on Twitter or Instagram at Mr. Martini Guy, or you can reach Carson at Carson_AV17. And if you'd like to reach out to Rich for any reason, if you have a maintenance concern or need in the future, you can always go to his website, and they've got a form on there. It's cavuaeroservice.com, and you can check him out there. So thanks so much for listening today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. As we wrap up for the day, just remember, we're here to guide you through your entire aviation journey. So fly safe and enjoy the ride.
Thanks, guys. See ya.